Assalamu alaikum, dear students. Our today's topic is to study about the population growth. What is population growth? Population growth is, basically the increase in the number of individuals in a population. All right. As we know that all populations they change, in size with time. As the time goes on, the size of a population changes, and size of the population means the number of individuals in a particular population. It keeps changing. Suppose if births exceed deaths, if there are more births than deaths, then what will happen is that population will grow. If deaths are more than births, or you can say if deaths exceed births, the population shrinks or population will decrease automatically. Only when births are equal to the deaths, that means the population will stay the same. And population size can also change if organisms move in, that means immigration. So population size will change if immigration is there. It will also change if the individuals leave a population. Leaving a population means immigration. All right. So environmental scientists use two models to describe how populations grow over time. We have exponential growth model and logistic growth model. So what is exponential growth? Let's try and understand here first. Exponential growth means when a population grows exponentially. That means when a population grows at a very faster and a greater rate, you can say. So वो कब possible है? A population, when will a population grow exponentially? It will happen when resources are unlimited. All right. When there are unlimited resources means food, space and other things that are required for the survival of a particular population. So when we provide enough resources or unlimited resources, then population will definitely, it will grow exponentially. That would the size of the population will increase at a greater and a greater rate. And under this population, exponential population growth is population increase under the ideal conditions or under the idealized conditions. Ideal conditions means when resources are unlimited. So under such conditions, what will happen is the rate of reproduction, it is at its maximum. Like when resources are unlimited, that means the rate of reproduction, it would be at its maximum. So population will grow exponentially. All right. When we plot, if a graph is plotted like of population size n, like when the population size n is plotted over time t, you see here, if graph is plotted between population size and the time t, what will happen is the curve would be like this. You see here, so curve goes like this. First population starts growing slowly till it reaches this point, then suddenly there is a faster increase in the rate of like in the population size, or population is growing at a greater or faster rate. So this curve here, it looks like the letter J. That's why it's called as a J-shaped curve. All right. And in reality or in the real world, exponential growth doesn't happen. Why? Because we already know that we have our resources, they are limited, our food is limited, our space is limited. So this exponential growth, it's not very common. It's very rare in nature or real world. And the best example of exponential growth, it can be seen in case of bacteria. Suppose if we are growing bacteria in a lab, then we see, if suppose we have 1,000 bacteria, we place them in a large flask or a large jar and we provide them with the abundant supply of nutrients, what will happen is the number of bacteria, they will double from 1,000 to 2,000 after an hour. And in another hour, what will happen is these 2,000 bacteria, they will divide and they'll produce 4,000 bacteria. And after the third hour, what will happen is these 4,000 bacteria will divide and they'll produce 8,000 bacteria in the flask. And after 24 of these cycles, what will happen is the population of these bacteria, they would have increased from 1,000 to more than 16 billion bacteria. All right. So that means the population size increased at a greater and a greater rate, and this is what we call as exponential growth. And this exponential growth model equation looks like this. Like we calculate population growth rate like as births minus deaths, which is represented by letter small r, into population size n. All right. So population growth rate, like it is It's denoted by dn by dt. Dn by dt means it's the change in the number of n. As I told you, n is the number of, it's this population size or the number of individuals. So dn is the change in the number of individuals with the time t. So dn by dt, it's equal to r into n. R is what? R, I told you, r is births minus deaths. R is the rate of increase into the total population size. So dn by dt is equal to r into n. R is births minus deaths and n is the population size. So this is how we calculate the exponential growth, and if the value turns out to be positive, that means population is growing, and if it is, suppose if the value comes out to be negative, that means population is decreasing, and if it is 0, that means population is same, or it is constant, it is same. So now coming to the logistic growth. In logistic growth, what happens is a population, it may increase exponentially here. Firstly, it will grow slowly, exponentially, sorry, it will grow at a faster rate for a while, for some time, then it starts slowing down. You see here the curve goes like this. As the population size, it is reaching the carrying capacity. That means if it is reaching this carrying capacity here, the population, the population growth starts slowing down. All right, so this is logistic growth. So in nature, we basically see logistic growth in the in most of the in case of wildlife, wild animals, we see logistic growth, because exponential growth is not sustainable. Why? Because exponential growth, it needs unlimited resources, which we don't have in the real world. So exponential growth may happen, थोड़ा time के लिए हो सकता है, till resource there, बहुत सारे resources होंगे and थोड़े से individuals होंगे. There are few individuals and many resources. But what will happen is when the population grows in size, now the new individuals they'll start adding up. So population grow हो जाएगी. यहाँ पे आप देख रहे हैं population is growing little faster here, because अब faster, like it's growing faster means more individuals are adding up, and when more individuals are adding up, what will happen is now the population growth will start slowing down. Now why will that happen? Because we have limited resources. Now these individuals, they will fight for the resources, they'll compete with each other, like a struggle of existence would be there, because we have limited food, limited space available. So competition would be there, and the individuals that are able to compete, they'll survive, and the ones that are not able to compete, they'll be wiped out. So that means now population growth altogether, it will slow down or it may stop. So here the curve that we get, it looks like letter S. That's why we call it as an S-shaped curve, or we call it as restricted growth, and exponential growth is unrestricted growth, because in exponential growth there are no restrictions, we have unlimited resources, and in logistic growth we have limited resources, or we call it as restricted growth. All right, so here in this logistic growth, you see population, it increases, growth rate is increasing till it reaches this point. And when the number of growth rate increasing means number of individuals are adding, there are more individuals now. When there are more individuals, now growth rate will start decreasing. See, the population is decreasing, or it may stop altogether. Why? Because it is reaching the carrying capacity. Now carrying capacity means what? Carrying capacity is the maximum population size that an environment can support, because the environment, like a particular number of individuals को support कर सकता है. All right, so that is the carrying capacity of an environment. So carrying capacity means the maximum population size that an environment can support. So once the population, it reaches the carrying capacity, now the growth rate, it will start decreasing, or it will stop altogether. So this is called as logistic growth, and it is shown by the equation. Here is the equation. It's like a dn by dt. Dn by dt, as I already told you, in case of exponential growth, it means the change in the number of individuals with the time t. It's equal to r into n. R, I told you, r is the rate of increase. That's like how we calculate r. It's births minus deaths. N is the total population size, into 1 minus n divided by k. Now k comes into picture here, and k is the carrying capacity. All right, so this is how we calculate the logistic growth model. So what is the difference between the two types of these curves, or these two types of this growth models? In exponential growth, resources are abundant, and in logistic growth, resources are limited. Now in exponential growth, population size, it will go beyond the carrying capacity of the ecosystem, because there is no carrying capacity as the resources are unlimited. And in case of logistic growth, population seldom grows beyond the carrying capacity. And exponential growth, steady or slow phase is rarely achieved. In case of logistic growth, steady phase is reached, because when resources are limited, population is growing. Now it will start, like you see here, population will start slowing down. So that means a slow phase or steady phase is reached here. It's not really like you see here in this curve, it's like just exponentially growing. So in case of exponential growth, population they crash ultimately because of the mass mortality, because this population, it will not survive for a long period of time, so it will crash. Mass mortality would be there. Mortality means death, so mass deaths will take place and the population will crash. And in case of logistic growth, population seldom crashes. And in case of exponential growth, it is seen in very few organisms, for example in case of bacteria or algal blooms. And logistic growth is common, like you see this type of growth in members of wildlife. And this is also called as sigmoid growth, or logistic growth is also called as restricted growth, and exponential growth is called as J-shaped growth, or we call it as unrestricted growth. All right, so this is all for today. Thank you, have a nice day.